What is going on, guys? PoliticsGaming here, and today I'm going to be talking about a quick segment that I'm going to be doing maybe every now and then, every time a political event happens. So, such as this, I'm going to be talking about the Jim Acosta barring from press organizations in the White House. Now, a lot of people are probably going to be saying this is not justified, this is an attack on the First Amendment, and this is not an attack on the First Amendment. This is not an attack on anything, but the fact that Jim Acosta was not asking a question, for one. He was not being relevant to the topic at hand. This was just a post-midterm briefing of the president after the results of the Democrats taking the House of Representatives as of today. Now, in this exchange, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and CNN's White House correspondent, Jim Acosta, did have an exchange of words in which it ended up ending with Jim Acosta now being barred from press conferences with the president and everything like that. So, regardless of how the president speaks, regardless of how he talks, there is a certain level that should at least be practiced to basically say, okay, well, we're dealing with the president, we're dealing with this, dealing with that. The president can have his own opinion, but whenever you are refusing to listen to the rules of the organization, whenever you are refusing to do anything but to just cause a stir in the room, you have to at least admit that Jim Acosta is in the wrong in this scenario. And I'm going to go ahead and play a couple of seconds of this.
In the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with.
So this is where the first problem lies, is where he says he's talking about how Donald Trump characterized the caravan moving from Central America to the border with the United States from Mexico. And this is where the first problem lies, is that he is explaining, he is supposed to be asking a question. He is supposed to be saying, what are your thoughts now that the Democrats have taken the House on how you're going to be able to get your agenda in immigration passed through the House? And this is where it lies, is where there's... And then he goes on to start saying that, well, it is not an invasion. It is a migrant is, and then he explains what a migrant caravan is. That's not a question. That's not what he's supposed to be doing. He's not supposed to be explaining things to the president. He's supposed to get the president to explain things to him, and then that's how he reports his findings. That is not anywhere near relevant to the to what was going on. He's supposed to be asking the questions of how he's going to be able, if he wanted to be relevant, he needs to be asking questions on how he's going to be able to get his immigration policy passed, now that the Democrats have taken the House of Representatives. And Jim Acosta continues on to where he just starts bad-mouthing the president.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion.
See, that's more of a question, is why did you characterize it as such, instead of explaining what a migrant caravan is?
You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonize?
And that is completely correct. And for one, the president characterizes it as an invasion. Whether you think that is right or wrong, that is his opinion. President Obama did not characterize these things as invasions. I am not saying it is an invasion. I am not saying it is not an invasion. I am completely trying to be neutral as of right now, because I'm trying to at least say why Jim Acosta is in the wrong in this scenario.
Demonized immigrants in
Not
this
at all.
election
No,
to
not at
try
all.
to keep.
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need?
See, and then there's another problem that Jim Acosta had, and this has been prevalent, and Donald Trump has been completely absolutely patient with this guy ever since he got into office. Jim Acosta has always been the CNN correspondent, but now they are just absolutely they're just not knowing what to do. They're just absolutely just not knowing how to really deal with this.
We need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
They're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not
think
an
you
invasion.
should, honestly, you know
miles
what?
away.
I
That's
think
not an
you
invasion.
should, honestly,
So Jim Acosta continues to go to where he is basically saying it's not an invasion, it's hundreds of miles away. And then he says it again. It's not an invasion, it's 100 miles away. For one, I mean, the migrant caravan is still moving toward the United States, and whether you characterize it as an invasion is, again, a matter of opinion. It's not, whenever you think of invasion, this is how CNN and especially Jim Acosta are trying to place it as, is that whenever you hear the word invasion, you are thinking of Blitzkrieg, Operation Barbarossa invasion. You think of military invasion, but it's not. Whenever, and how I've perceived Donald Trump's words invasion is that it is an invasion of leniency and just complete arrogance, saying, okay, it doesn't really matter that these people are coming in illegally, which is basically why a lot of people even wanted to elect Donald Trump, is because Democrats do not have a very solid immigration policy, but they do want these people to come in, which I mean, in the sense of open borders, a lot of Democrats do support open borders. And whenever I'm saying dissolve the borders, I'm not saying they want to dissolve the borders. But whenever the Democrats talk about immigration, they talk about it in a sense that we will not have a very lenient immigration policy. We're going to have just basically allow a lot of people in, regardless of where they're coming from, regardless of how they're vetted. We want people to come into our country, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's where the sense is coming from, in my own opinion, that a lot of these Democrats are wanting, and that's why Donald Trump is against that, is because he does not want these people to come in whenever they want. He wants them to at least go through a process that a lot of people do. And I mean, in the last migrant caravan, back in like 2014, whenever they arrived at the border, they went through the process. They went through them. They got rejected. They got passed. Stuff like that. But a lot of these people who are supporting this migrant caravan do not want them to go through a process. And maybe you do want them to go through a process, but a good amount of people do not want that. And those people are being the loudest right now.
honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings
Let
would
me
be
ask,
much better.
if I may ask one other question, Mr. President.
And then that's actually a very good point. He said, and it's basically Jim Acosta, and this is where I'm perceiving a lot of these things from, is that Jim Acosta is basically telling him how he should run the country. And the American people elected Donald Trump because they want him to run the country how he sees fit. That's what the president is supposed to do. Jim Acosta is basically saying, you need to run the country like this because I don't like how you're doing it right now. And regardless, again, how you feel about President Trump, he is running the country how he sees fit. He was elected to do that purpose. And then this is where the main problem is. This is where everyone starts to lose their stuff.
If I may ask one other
enough.
question, Mr. President,
That's enough.
Ask one.
And then so this is the exchange that is making headlines right now, where this woman right here, she is the press director in the White House, and she was basically supposed to, pass the microphone around whenever like a new organization is. And then this is where CNN's Jim Acosta really, really starts to shine.
The other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me.
Right here. This is the exchange that is getting headlines right here. So whenever this woman, and I'm going to go ahead and slow this down just a tiny little bit. Whenever this woman grabs the microphone, that is what she's supposed to do. This was not bad on her for doing so. She grabs it. Jim Acosta slams his hand down. Now, it is a complete exaggeration that everyone is saying, well, he hit her, he made physical contact with her. I don't think like he meant to do that. That is a complete accident, and you can see his eyes are completely trained on the president. His eyes are completely directed toward the president. He is not paying attention to what the woman is doing. So as soon as she grabs the microphone, he slams his hand down on her arm. Not hard. Doesn't look like it's hard. Which actually you can see it pushed down. I actually didn't notice that. So that's actually what a lot of people... Now, whether that was her relaxing her arm to actually grab the microphone, or if it was him pushing her arm down, that's a different discussion. But Jim Acosta is not supposed to be doing this. That microphone is not supposed to be in his hands anymore. The president is going on to the next question. He is not supposed to be... the president is completely refusing to entertain him anymore. And that is where the whole problem is that Jim Acosta is being cocky. He is basically saying, okay, well, this is not, like, I'm the only one who's going to be asking questions around here, and whenever I'm done is whenever I say I'm done. That is not what a press corps is supposed to do. That is not what the press is supposed to do. And this is why CNN has such a bad reputation in this area, is that they are just acting like they rule the White House. They rule everything. And they try to act like they're doing it for the American people, but they're not doing it. They're just trying to do it so they can make Democrats win. And it's, again, it is another discussion whether the CNN is biased or not. And I'm not going to go into that. That would be a completely good discussion for a different video. But it's just completely bogus to say that Jim Acosta is in the right. He's not in the right. He is completely in the wrong. He is not supposed to be doing this, and this is just horrible reputation for CNN, and this is just going to make it worse. They're going to spin it as if they are in the right, but they are not in the right. They are absolutely in the wrong. And that is my take on this entire discussion. It's that CNN is just completely trying to act like they are the pinnacle of reporting. They are not the pinnacle of reporting. They are embarrassing themselves, especially Jim Acosta. CNN should absolutely be embarrassed of themselves.
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation? Mr. President.
And that is a very, very smart move by the president right there. That is a very, very professional and smart move. And as soon as he tells him one more time, he says, put the mic down, I'm done answering your question. And Jim Acosta continues to talk. He continues to ignore the president's order. And no, I'm not saying that the president should be ordering the press what to do, but whenever your time is up and you should not be talking anymore, you should not be talking anymore. It is not your turn. You need to give someone else that turn. So,
the hoax.
President
That's
Trump
enough.
does
Put
this.
down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments?
He just stops talking and walks away from the microphone.
Mr. President.
And then as soon as they give the microphone to another, press corps, Jim Acosta makes it even worse.
Tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is the way you treat other people. You shouldn't treat people.
Now, President Trump is actually, he's basically responding to how much I think he should have done beforehand. So that's probably the only wrong thing that I believe President Trump did in this scenario. But instead of, like, he continues to go on and talk about it, and then Jim Acosta embarrasses himself even more.
Go ahead, Peter, go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts his
Well,
butt
I'm not
like
a big
the rest
fan
of
of
us.
yours either, so
I understand.
to be honest.
So let me ask you a question if I can. You repeatedly
you
said...
You aren't the best.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of...
And there he goes. And President Trump making insults about the press and stuff like that, that could actually be perceived as another wrong thing that the president did in this situation. I'm not saying that he's this golden guy saying, "Oh yeah, well he's like the worst, like he's like the best guy ever, like he treats everything right, blah blah blah." No, I mean President Trump does go on tangents, he does make wrong decisions, and sometimes the way he does treat the press is a little bit out of line. But at the same time, the media does have it coming to themselves, and as soon as that attitude gets trained back on them, that's whenever they start whining about it, especially CNN. And then so this is whenever Jim Acosta stands up, starts talking, while the guy is questioning him. Jim Acosta stands up, makes himself even more embarrassed, and then just tries to interrupt him.
Just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of the campaign, you repeatedly said that Americans need to fear Democrats. You said it would unleash a wave of violent crime that endangers families everywhere. Why?
See, talking about how Trump treats certain people, including Democrats and the media and stuff like that, that's how you ask it. You make it relevant to the topic. Jim Acosta was not being relevant to the topic, and he was just absolutely embarrassing himself, including CNN, as much as they have already been embarrassed for how they've been. So guys, this is going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this. This is going to be my take on the whole Jim Acosta's President Trump ordeal. So guys, if you guys like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And guys, I'll go ahead and see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.